Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the RHA TrueConnect 2. Now these true wireless earphones can be found for £130 in the UK or $170 in the US. If you live in these territories or indeed elsewhere, the locally link in the description below will take you to your localized Amazon store. Now for those who might be aware, the TrueConnect 2 are the second revision of RHA's true wireless range. The RHA TrueConnect 1, which I reviewed back in late 2018, were at the time one of the best sounding true wireless earbuds on the market, and they were at around £150. Now here, these TrueConnect 2 earphones add better IP rating, better battery life, supposedly have better microphones, and also have touch sensitive buttons in order to control your earphones rather than the buttons on the TrueConnect 1. So in this review I'll be comparing them to its predecessors, but furthermore looking to see if they are still one of the best sounding earbuds in its price range, given the fact that we have a lot more options now in 2020. Now just before proceeding, if you do have Instagram, I'd very much greatly appreciate a follow. It's at TotallyDubbed, or a link will be down in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into this review. First off, let's talk about what you get in the box. Well, you've got a USB Type-A to USB Type-C cable, you've got the charging case with the earphones, and then you've got a set of extra tips. Now, I like the fact you've got a good little selection over here. However, it's a shame not to see the Comply foam tips, which were included in the original RHA TrueConnect 1. Now, moving aside, let's talk about the case. Now, the case is still quite unique. I like the way it flips up and the way it looks like. It looks premium and it feels it as well. In terms of charging, there's a USB Type-C connector over here, and there's a little 3 indicators over here which give you an indication of how much battery is remaining of the case and indeed the earphones inside. Now the case itself will take around 3 hours to charge from empty to full. It's, as far as I'm aware, it's also got a little fast charging as well, in other words for the earphones, and also in terms of the overall battery life, it's significantly improved. It's gone to 44 hours total playback with earphones and case, whereas before you were looking at around 25 hours. Now the earphones themselves will last around 9.5 hours, whilst the case will give you an additional 34 hours and 30 minutes. At least that's according to RHA's website, and from my tests I found that it does last pretty much that time. Now when you get the earphones out, what I did notice in comparison to other true wireless earphones is these connect absolutely instantaneously to my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. I have no issues whatsoever with connectivity. Here they use Bluetooth 5, which is great to see, and they also use the SBC and AAC codec, very much like the originals. Now it's unfortunate because there's no aptX, aptX-HD or LDAC codec supported. I would have liked them to see included, but it seems to be not the case. Now in terms of the earphones themselves, they're very lightweight. They're around 6 grams each. The case itself is 79 grams, so it might be a little bit hefty in comparison to some of its competitors. Now what I like about the earphones is their design. They're a little bit unique. They don't look like all the other earphones out there. Yes, they do have this kind of Apple AirPods type of stem, but other than that, they're quite nice. Now the biggest difference between the originals is the fact that they have no longer any buttons. Now the buttons is a shame because I actually quite like the buttons, but the touch sensitive buttons are sensitive enough to pick up presses, but not too sensitive in order to provide accidental presses. So I like what RHA have done over here. They've made it easier to control, and furthermore actually just thought about how the market has progressed over the years. Now in terms of the controls they provide, they can't be adjusted, which is a shame. There's no app that's included in order for you to tailor it, but the right one, if you double tap, increases the volume, triple taps decreases the volume, hold it down and it will activate your assistant. So in this case, in my case, it would be Google Assistant. On the left hand side, if you double press it, it goes next, triple press it, it goes back, and both of them support play and pause. So if you tap it once, it will play and pause your music, and of course answer and receive calls. So that's great to see. In terms of the functionalities, I will mention that the earphones can be used independently from each other, and as I said before, due to their Bluetooth codec and specifically how RHA have tuned them, it means that you can use one independently from the other. So you can have the right one in the case and use the left one, and vice versa. I found that the switch is absolutely instantaneous and it's fantastic. It's among one of the best earbuds in this respect in terms of connectivity. Now finally, I will mention these have got IP55 rating over the IPX5, as if you needed more protection, but they're not fully waterproof. They will survive the rain and have dust protection as well. That's great to see, and it's good inclusion over its predecessors and in comparison to some of its competitors in the market right now. And now let's get on to performance. Now first off, I do want to mention that these earphones do not have ANC. They do have good passive noise isolation, but for those people who are looking to be a little bit more closed off from the world around them, ANC is not included. I will say that in comparison to some of its competitors, the passive noise isolation is better than what the others offer, purely because of their design and the way that they fit. But now let's get on to call quality. Now RHA have included more microphones, and that does mean that your voice does come a lot clearer, specifically in comparison to its predecessor. The problem here is that in comparison to some of its competitors, these microphones do pick up a lot more environmental sound. Therefore, if you're in a crowded area, or let's say walking by the side of a road, those cars or the people who are going to be sitting next to you are going to be heard a lot more. So yes, call quality has improved, technically speaking, but when it comes to actual real-world usage, then you will find that the RHA TrueConnect 2 will suffer from environmental sound. Now moving on from call quality, let's talk about sound quality. Now I did mention that these support only the AAC and SBC codecs only. I would have liked to see aptX because that would have kind of boosted its performance in terms of sound quality. So let's break it down in terms of the overall sound frequencies. First off, let's talk about sub-bass. The sub-bass is present. It does sound a little bit cut off, but does have that low-end rumble that some other earphones seem to struggle at its price range. In terms of the mid-bass, it's pronounced and it's there. You can definitely feel it, but it is worth bearing in mind that it does sound a little bit uncontrolled. Not to the point that it's a little bit, unpleasant to listen to. Then moving on to the mid-range, I would have liked to see the mids to be a little bit more forward sounding. They have very much retained the same RHA sound signature over the TrueConnect 1, whereby they do sound a little bit recessed, warm sounding and fun. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but again, some of its competitors now offer a better, more forward sounding mids. So for example, let's say the JBL or let's say the Track Air Plus, and here they do sound a little more engaging, specifically when it comes to listening to vocal sounds. Now moving on to the highs, what I do find is the TrueConnect 2 are still a little bit sibilant, very much like their predecessors. Now I did point this out in the original review of the TrueConnect 1 that they do sound sibilant, but put some compli foam tips and suddenly that harshness gets taken out altogether. The problem here is that the TrueConnect 2 don't come with compli foam tips, so you'll have to buy that as an additional extra. You might be willing to do that and pay for that, but as I'm doing a review of these earphones without their compli foam tips, it is worth bearing in mind that they might sound a little bit harsh. Even to my ears, where I'm not overly sensitive, I did find them a little bit harsh. Again, versus some of its competitors out there, where they can have tailored EQs, or via apps that is, or they don't sound overly harsh at the top end. It is worth bearing in mind that the TrueConnect 2 do come out across as a little bit too sibilant, if that makes sense. Now as for the soundstage, what I do find is that the TrueConnect 2 have a good sort of instrument separation. However, the width and depth sounds a little bit close sounding. So in comparison to, let's say, other earphones out there, let's say from the creative Outlier Air, which sound a lot more open sounding, or let's say the vastly more expensive Sennheiser True Wireless 2, the Momentum True Wireless 2, they will sound a lot more open sounding and airy sounding. So it's a little bit of a shame here because there's no sort of improvement over its predecessors, so it does sound a little bit close sounding, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I would have just expected a little bit more of a progression here in the soundstage department. So what I'm trying to say over here with the overall sound frequency is that the earphones do sound good. They've got a good sort of tonality and have got that fun sound signature that RHA originally had with the TrueConnect 1. However, there's not been that much of a progression. In fact, there might be somewhat of a regression because of the compli foam tips not being included, and therefore that sensitive harshness that some people might be able to hear might come across with the TrueConnect 2. Again, I have to judge with what you get in the box versus the optional extras that you might get on top. And this all leads me on to my verdict. What do I make of these earphones? Well, quite frankly, when the TrueConnect 1 came out in late 2018, they were fantastic. There are very little other earphones in the market that really offered such functionalities and overall sound frequencies. The problem is, less than 2 years on, there's so many true wireless earphones that have entered the market from a variety of different manufacturers, to the point where the TrueConnect 2 kind of fails to stand out. It doesn't have the right codec support, the call quality doesn't separate your voice versus the environment, and furthermore the sound quality hasn't really improved, which would have been a little bit nice to see a little bit more of a boost in the mid-range. So on the whole, it's a little bit hard because they're not terrible earphones, but at the same time, they're not earphones that I can actively rave about, which I did with the TrueConnect 1. What I'm trying to say over here is that the competitors have caught up. to the point where these competitors offer either cheaper or more expensive alternatives that you might want to consider. And those considerations will be down in the description below for you to make your own purchasing decision. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you make of these earphones, if you own them or were thinking about them, or indeed of some of its competitors. Of course, as I said before, if you do have Instagram, I'd very much appreciate following me on there. And of course, favorite and share and subscribe, as it always helps this channel grow. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye bye.